You hated my cartoon. You made fun of my clothes. You disrespected Joshy. You broke my hand and you didn't even seem sorry. That broken hand was the best thing that ever happened to you.
I think the movie probably makes him look a lot worse than the book does, but I haven't read the book.
Well, actually, apparently, Greg is way worse in the books.
Oh, no.
Well, audiences were a little split on this from the books to the movies. People were actually saying that Greg was not enough of a sociopath in the movie because that's the whole point of the books. The whole point is that he is sarcastic, condescending, kind of thinks he knows everything. So as far as the character of Greg goes, it's pretty accurate to the books, if not him being a little bit more watered down, because apparently he's even worse in the books, and the movie version apparently is the more sympathetic one.
My mom told me to just be myself and people would like me. That would be good advice if you were somebody else.
Hey, what's poppin', you cheese touchers? Welcome back. School is in session. It is JPI. It's the duo that is always on Team Skins against our will. And if you can't find us watching random movies, you might find us on them streets playing ball versus big wheel. I choose ball because I'm like that. My name is Captain Pop. I'm James. I am a remixer in the kitchen. I am just spinning those microwave plates, heating up my popcorn. And next to me is my best friend in the world. He's across the country, but always in my heart. It is Nicholas, Digiclus, Ridiculous Nicholas, Justice, the corn dog.
Thank you for the intro. As always, my friend, that's right. It is your favorite day in the cafeteria. It's corn dog day, baby. So get some mustard or some ketchup, whatever your preference is there, and sit on down and let us spin you a yarn. Let us tell you a tale that comes from a little book, James, a little Diary of a Wimpy Kid from 2010 is the movie we watched this week.
That is right. We are literally probably the only podcast that will review One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and the very next episode we're reviewing Diary of a Wimpy Kid from 2010. You heard it first. We do it all.
That's what you get here.
Cuckoo's Nest, Best Picture winner, by the way. It was part of our annual Oscar selection. By the way, if you missed our live stream of the Oscars, we went over the results. We saw who was right, who was wrong. It was such a hoot, such a holler. We have a condensed, nice, tiny, tight, perfect little episode wound up for you. Make sure to go check that out. It was such a blast.
It was. I think it's something we experimented with. I had a ton of fun with it, and I think something I'd be open to doing a little bit more in the future. Some of these live streams for the fans, James. We got to do it for the fans.
For the fans! With this movie. First off, have you seen this movie?
Never seen this movie.
Me neither. I've seen clips of it on social media. Clips from this movie have been used as meme templates. One of the memes I saw coming, one of them I didn't see coming. But this appears to be a gold mine for maybe Gen Z core memories. I remember this movie coming out. I didn't know it was that long ago, 16 years ago. For some reason, it felt like 5.
Yeah, we're old, man. We're old, and I don't know what else to say about it, but I know these were books. The books passed us by. I think we were just maybe 5 years too old before the books came out. So it's that sweet little pocket of content that I was too cool for. And so I never went back and revisited it. So a kid's movie from 2010, we got to see what it's about.
Have to. This is the only podcast that's going to give it to you like that. So Nick, as we review this movie, it is tradition around here, episode by episode, to hit each other and hit the audience with a pre-pop score. So this is going to be our gut reaction score, fresh off a watch of the movie of what we're thinking. We give it a numerical score out of 10. It is our pre-pop popcorn points. And Nick, I'm reviewing this movie first.
All right, James. Well, I hope you're ready. I'm your teacher. I'm calling on you here today, kid. And I need to see your pre-pop score on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. James, I see Diary of a Wimpy Kid. You gave it a 5.1. And you also put a fun piece of art, a really good piece of art. And you can see that art, by the way. If you're watching this on YouTube.
I did that.
Yeah. Point it out. Point it out. That's right. And you really want to see this. That might be better than the actual art in the movie, throwing it out there. But if you want to check it out, you need to go over to YouTube, Just Play It Podcast. Make sure you hit subscribe while you're over there and check us out. Check out all the great work James is doing on the video side. He also does the audio side. He does all the sides of the production here. So go over, check him out, give it a follow. While you're on your device and saying, hey, these guys are really cool, go over to Instagram and check us out at Just Play It Podcast as well. And if you're in that crazy world called Twitter, formerly Twitter, now X, follow us at Just Play It Pod. So go check us out. We're all over the place. We're doing things. We want you to be a part of our world.
Part of your world. Diary of a Wimpy Kid's owned by Disney, by the way, because it was 20th Century Fox at the time, but now it's owned by Disney. So Little Mermaid's in the house.
I did see it on Disney Plus.
Me too.
Well, James, so your pre-pop score was a 5.1, and then I derailed us. And the other tradition with our popcorn points is I need you to give me 3 words and 3 words only to describe this movie. Let me hear them.
Well, speaking of derailing, I am going to go against code here and go a little bit untraditional with the 3 words. So I do need your help with this one, Nick. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question. Please give me the answer to that. I'll ask you a follow-up question and then give me a simpler answer to that. And then I'll give you my 3 words. Does that sound okay?
I don't understand it, but I'm ready to play. Let's go.
Nick, what movie did we watch?
Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Of a what kid?
Wimpy Kid.
More like shitty.
That's awful. All right. Thank you, James.
Wait, that was a bad joke?
It was a great joke. I loved it. It's right up my alley.
Why was it awful?
I don't know.
Wow, you sound like Greg right now. Just jealous of me. Nick, now I need your pre-pop score, and then I'm going to ask you for your 3 words. Are you ready?
Aye, Captain.
Nick, pre-pop me in 3, 2, 1. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, you are giving a 4.5. We are pretty close on our pre-pops, and Nick, your 3 words simply are
a kid's movie.
Perfect. See, I didn't want to hit you with the more like shitty because it was more to it. It was a response to the title. You know what I'm saying?
I see the route you had to go.
More like a shitty kid. Because we'll talk about it, but our protagonist is a little bit of an issue. Nick, I think we need to start talking about this movie and talking about that problematic kid named Greg. So, Nick, this movie is directed by a guy named Thor Freudenthal. Didn't recognize anything he's done before, but that is who is in the director's chair.
Good old Thor.
Swanging that hammer. And Nick, writing this movie, the person with the pen on the typewriter, we have multiple writers here. And we can see that there's some ampersands and the word and as we learned from our X-Men episode of writing credits, we know that ampersands mean that they were a writing team. And then the word and, A-N-D, means it was separate times that they were writing or separate drafts, but they got credit. So we have a couple of names here. We have Jackie Filgo and Jeff Filgo. They have screenplay by their writing team. And then separate from them, we have Gabe Sachs and Jeff Judah, also with screenplay credits. So that we have two teams of 2 writers doing the screenplay. And then obviously we have Jeff Kinney, who is the author of the book, aka the source material. But Nick, who is in front of the camera in this movie?
James, in front of the camera, we have Zachary Gordon. Just what we need, another Gordon.
Yeah.
Robert Caprone and Rachel Harris. And really, Zachary and Robert I think are our main 2. There's a lot of multiple side characters.
Yeah, Rachel Harris is the mom. Recognize her from The Hangover.
Yep.
That's about it. And Nick, how about them dollar signs?
Well, James, our estimated budget here is about $15 million. And our box office worldwide, just under $76.19 million. So that's a hell of a return on a kid's movie. You got to love it.
Just to talk about this movie, I know it's based off a book. I wanted to know what is the main difference between the movie and the book. I know the kid's book translating into a film is probably going to be a little bit wonky, so let's see how it shakes out. From what I gathered, the main difference from the book to the movie is the point of view. So the book's condescending and narcissistic point of view is completely that of Greg Heffley's, which is our main character, which makes sense because it is a diary. It is called Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It's his thoughts, his opinions, and his interpretation of his surroundings. Whereas the 2010 film, Greg narrates his interpretations of his surroundings, but the surroundings are presented in an unbiased form, aka a movie, and they're not as abstract as Greg's outlook on life. So it's not a misrepresentation of reality. It's just what we're actually seeing that's happening in the world. So the commentary is subjective, but the plot that unfolds is objective. So oddly enough, the book to film adaptation is similar to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, because as you recall from that episode, the book had a point of view of Chief, and then they switched it to an objective point of view for the movie. And Diary of a Wimpy Kid got the same treatment. Funny how that works.
It's funny how that works. I think it works that way for a kid's movie. As I think about it now, it probably makes more sense in the book to have, you could be a bad person in your inner monologue and not always act it out as a narrator. And so I think the movie probably makes them look a lot worse than the book does. But I haven't read the book. It's somewhere in my house. My wife owns this book. So it is under my roof somewhere.
Actually, you should find it under your roof and crack it open, because apparently Greg is way worse in the books.
Oh, no.
Because, audiences were a little split on this, from the books to the movies. People were actually saying that Greg was not enough of a sociopath in the movie, because that's the whole point of the books. The whole point is that he is sarcastic and a little bit condescending and a little bit of a not a pessimist, but just a little bit too mature for his own age and kind of thinks he knows everything. So as far as the character of Greg goes, it's pretty accurate to the books, if not him being a little bit more watered down, because apparently he's even worse in the books, and the movie version apparently is the more sympathetic one. Just for example, in the first book, Greg introduces his friend Rowley, who is going to be in this movie. Quote, "It's been great having him around, mostly because I get to use all the tricks Rodrick pulls on me." So Rodrick is his older brother, picks on him, and Rowley is just a chain in the line of abuse, I guess. And he thinks, this is great. I love having this little dummy next to me, and I could just pick on him and take it out on him. So I thought going into this, Nick, I thought this was going to be a person who's never read the books, knows nothing about the movie. I thought we were going to get a SpongeBob and Patrick type movie. But what we actually got was a Squidward meets Plankton versus SpongeBob type movie. I thought SpongeBob was Greg, Patrick was Rowley, but no, Greg is a Squidward with a Plankton ego battling a SpongeBob Rowley.
Yeah, I definitely see that. And it's funny you bring that up, because there's a lot of times as we go through the plot of this that I'm going to have something to say about this son of a bitch, Greg.
Greg is a jerk.
I don't like Greg. I don't like Greg. I don't like what he stands for. I don't like what he's about. I don't like the man he's going to become. I don't like the kid that he is. And I'm with you, James. I thought we were going to have a coming of age story with lessons learned. Spoiler alert, I don't think there's a lot of lessons learned here. It's just a long list of a kid having a giant ego.
A jerk to everybody. And one of those examples of being a jerk is the ball versus bike gag. I didn't understand this in the movie. Apparently it's from the books. Upon doing research in the book, Rowley gets Greg a big wheel. And Greg says, I guess I would have thought it was a cool gift when I was in the 3rd grade, but I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with one now. Rowley was so enthusiastic about it, I tried my best to act like I was happy anyway. So just like in the movie, Greg never takes a turn as the big wheel rider and always insists that he is the person who should be throwing the football at the person riding the bike. And he makes up a reason like my leg hurts, or you're better at riding the big wheel than I am, which essentially is just a form of bullying, because he knows Rowley is less intelligent than him and is less confrontational, at least in the beginning of the movie, and just takes advantage of that.
Yeah, he abuses the friendship because Rowley's a really good friend who will go along and do what his buddy says. And he's like, oh, my buddy's smart. He knows what he's talking about. I'll listen to him. And then, yeah, exactly. Greg uses this as an excuse to literally throw things at Rowley while he's defenseless on a big wheel. I mean, at that point in the movie, we'll get into it. But my goodness, yeah, if I didn't hate this kid already, and then the aftermath, it's just we got to get into this, James. I feel like we just got to get into this.
So he's written to be a narcissistic jerk by design, and it's pure satire on the POV of a middle schooler who thinks he knows it all. So in an interview with Screen Rant, the creator Jeff Kinney said, "I think of Greg being an accurate kid. People who criticize Greg for his behavior, I think they probably did a lot of those things too. Greg is recording his life at a time when he shouldn't be recording his life. He's not a fully formed person. I think people that give Greg a label are sort of missing the joke." Jeff started this series in his late 20s. Very cynical, very just young and ready to make some content that wasn't necessarily supposed to be for kids. Because from a New York Times article, Mr. Kinney says he originally wrote the stories for adults, aiming for funny and nostalgic recollections of childhood, and never imagined them as children's literature. Rather than offering moralistic lessons, he focused on the humor inherent in the misguided decisions that children often make. And he says, "If there is a lesson in the book, it's to do the opposite of what Greg does. Even my kindergarten child understands that Greg is being naughty and that he shouldn't act like him." So when I was watching this movie, Nick, I was waiting for Greg to turn a corner, and he doesn't really ever do that. So I thought, okay, well, I think at least if you're smart, you're going to pick up on that Greg is not a good person, and only mouth breathers would think that he's the hero and the person that you should be looking up to. So that actually translated to me while watching this movie. But what do you think about Kinney's intentions with the character? Because to be honest, it's kind of refreshing. Because you know what I hate? Remember I talked about this in the Hallmark movie. I hate when kids are like tiny adults and they know everything and they're morally high standard. So that always pisses me off when they're not written like kids. So even though Greg is a giant dick, I feel like a lot of things that he does in this movie are what kids do to cover up embarrassment or try to be cool. He comes off as a sociopath because it is constant. This movie's oversaturated with his bad decisions, highlighted by Rowley's innocence. But I did appreciate that the whole point was to have it be from this unreliable narrator and to accurately give audiences a look into a middle schooler's undeveloped brain.
Yeah, actually, I really like hearing that from Kinney because it makes a lot more sense. Because is Greg a little psychopath? Yeah. Is he a little sociopath? Yeah. Are kids that age generally sociopaths who have not developed that empathy and who are very selfish and self-serving? Like, yeah, that's exactly. We used to work with kids, and all the time you had those kids that were just selfish and wouldn't listen and didn't care about others and were always trying to, and being mean. And so it is cool to hear that. I definitely hear the adult humor because there were things in this movie, admittedly, made me laugh. I thought were funny. There were some funny bits, some funny gags. I really like when, even if it's not supposed to be a kid's movie, it is, but they kept some of those adult jokes and themes in there that still make it enjoyable for that audience. So I really like that, actually. It actually warms me up to the movie a little bit, hearing that, that perspective of it.
I couldn't agree more, because when you are someone who's an outsider like me, I've never read the books, never saw these movies, jumping in cold turkey on this movie, I thought Greg is unrelatable. He is a jerk. He is a horrible role model for kids. What the hell is this crap? What am I watching? But then you read the comments from Jeff Kinney, and you do have a little bit, you grow a respect for his approach to it, especially with just being a guy in his late 20s, just trying to write some funny content and recalling his childhood memories and experiences. Because he does say Greg is, the stuff he does is similar to the stuff I've thought and stuff I've done before in my adolescence. So, it is refreshing to be like, hey, my protagonist is not a squeaky clean, heroic protagonist. He's a real kid with real thoughts. I think Greg acts on his thoughts more in the movie, which is why it comes off as so unsettling, because out loud, we all want to act a certain way. And behind closed doors, we might have inside jokes and we might have bad thoughts, or even just in your own head, you're just thinking stuff that shouldn't be said out loud. And I think part of growing up is realizing what's right, what's wrong, and what is fine to be said out loud and what you should keep to yourself or you shouldn't think at all. But Greg is unfiltered. And that was the whole point of the movie. It was supposed to replicate the books, which is from this askewed point of view of this kid going through middle school, trying to navigate being popular. I do think it kind of opens up my perspective on the movie, but when you're coming in just on a fresh watch, it is very jarring because Greg is such an asshole. That's why my 3 words, it was either going to be more like shitty because he acts like a shitty little kid, but it was also going to be not for everyone, because I think this movie was for those kids who go against the grain and are a little bit more alternative and kind of scoff at the movies that these people who are critical of this movie would much rather have. Like, let's say if that's just a movie about a morally high child that has unrealistic, mature thoughts, it's for those kids that scoff at those movies and say, that's not what life is like. That kind of shows those kids like, whoa, at least I'm not Greg. It's kind of for the intellectuals, I'll say. If you can pick up that Greg, what he's doing is bad, then you're smart. If you're watching this movie and saying, oh, I guess I need to act like that, then you're an idiot.
Yeah, absolutely. I do wish it would have come through maybe a little clearer that he was more of a satirical character, because there were times in the movie, and this could have just been from, the writers doing it, but it sometimes did feel like they were trying to make him more redeemable and relatable and maybe trying to give him a bit of a character arc. Like there's an emotional climax towards it. I don't like when somebody tries to force a character arc. What you're telling me is he's just a static character when you're not expecting it, which is jarring to a lot of audiences, but he's just a static, shitty character, which I'm okay with. I'm totally okay with. So now that I know that that's who he is, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think you have to know the source material. It's not what you're used to and not what you're expecting. Apparently, there's 3 movies in the live action interpretation of this series. Apparently, he gets more redeemable and it is a little bit more movie formatted for him to have progression. Whereas in the books, he's just static and just the same narcissistic, sarcastic, not so great person, 12-year-old. And in the movies, he does progress. And we see a glimpse of that at the end of this movie, but not a lot in the middle. So, Nick, I think it is time to get into this one. What do you say we hit that plot talk and read this log line?
All right. Our log line from IMDb is Greg Heffley is a 12-year-old who is fresh out of elementary and transitions to middle school, where he has to learn the consequences and responsibility to survive the year.
All right. And we are going to survive that year with Greg in Plot Talk.
Plot Talk.
All right, James, we're going to open up to a kind of a silly opening. We have Greg. He's going to be getting ready for his first day of middle school. His older brother makes him think that he slept in late, so he's rushing through the house. He's brushing his teeth. He's in the kitchen. He's trying to get breakfast ready, and his dad pops through the door and goes, "What are you doing?" And we find out that his older brother tricked him because not only is school not today, it doesn't start for another week, it's also currently 4 a.m. So we get a real quick glimpse. Brother's mean to him. The family is just a mess. The baby, the older brother, the parents are scrambling. They're just bad parents, like every kid's movie. And this is the setting that Greg lives in.
I got instant My Brother the Pig vibes, because when he was rushing to get ready, he's like dumping cereal down his mouth and pouring milk, and he's just making a freaking mess. And then the parents come in and there's no retribution. There's no doomsday by the parents. They're just like, what are you doing? I was like, My Brother the Pig. Just like it. Remember they made like the Frozen thing in that movie, and they got all crazy and just made a mess, and the parents were just idiots, just no consequences. Yeah, same vibes.
They'd given up. They'd pretty much given up. Like they're not in control of their life anymore. So, but we are going to get to our first day of school here. That's our next scene coming up. Older brother again tells him, don't talk to anybody, don't look at anybody, don't sign up for anything, don't talk, just go unnoticed. That's how you make it through middle school. Trust me. We're going to show up to school. He's very, very confident, Greg is, because he is so set that he is going to be the popular kid. He's going to get into middle school. He's going to peak here. This is where everything's finally going to come together. He's scrawny in his life, but in his head, he is the main character. He has main character syndrome. We're going to see this when his first meeting with his best friend, Rowley. Rowley, I guess, went to Guatemala with his family over the summer. He shows up in a knit poncho, which I call a drug rug.
It is a serape, Nick. Thank you very much. And instantaneously, Nick, I said, I'm going to like this kid.
Yeah.
Spoiler alerts. He was my MVC off rip.
Easily.
And I'll point out a key moment that solidified it for me. But as we meet Rowley, as we're in middle school, Greg, like you said, is obsessed with being popular. And he is so arrogant and a little bit of a narcissist and a sociopath and delusional that he ranks himself 19th out of 200 students and says to Rowley point blank, "You are 154. I thought, wow, the ego, the arrogance on this kid is something else. And we're also going to meet Fregley here, who he puts at the very bottom of his figurative list. Fregley, by the way, is played by Grayson Russell, and he actually played Texas Ranger Bobby in Talladega Nights, his very first role. I think he's the one who says, I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew. But this ranking list is going to be a visual representation of Greg's interpretation of where he and Rowley fall on the social scale of middle school. Greg and the Rowley dynamic, it only gets more abusive from here because Greg is the worst friend to Rowley because he will just say the meanest things. I had to go back on a second and third watch and write down all the mean things he said, and I couldn't keep up.
It's so mean to him.
But a couple examples are Rowley is really lucky to have a friend like me, but it's actually the opposite. Also later on, Greg is going to try and get buff for wrestling, and his dad's so excited that his son's going to get into wrestling. He's like, yeah, I'll buy you workout equipment. We'll do this. It'll only take 3 months. And then later he has to pretend like he's actively making an effort to show his dad that he's not interested in working out in hopes that he'll drop the subject, which I just thought was shitty behavior. Later on, he's going to narrate to himself, I need a new friend, but I can't ditch him. Maybe I can fix him. So he truly thinks he's that much better than Rowley and never realizes how messed up that thought process is.
Yeah, all the way to the end.
I'm not sure if a kid who has these kind of mature thoughts and can formulate these sentences and has this high and mighty view on life is incapable of coming to that revelation. But, you know, he sure talks like he's smart. Even on the first day when he's trying to find a seat in class, he's like, he literally says, if you're as discriminating as I am, I was like, whoa. Red flag to say that you're a discriminatory person. He says, whoever you sit next to in class, that's going to determine what your status is and who your friends are. So Rowley is just a happy-go-lucky kid. He's the type of guy that says, my mom told me to just be myself and people would like me. And then Greg hits him with a zinger and says, that would be good advice if you were somebody else. You're like, oh, geez, stab, dagger
Greg.
To the heart.
Greg.
What is your problem, Greg? Greg is going to give Rowley a makeover later. He's going to say, wow, you almost look as good as me. Again, the ego on this kid.
And it's very understood that Greg is not a good-looking child. He is small and scrawny. So in his mind, to think that he somehow looks good.
Delusional.
Yes. He poo-poos his ideas for, I mean, we'll get into it when we get there, but it's so egregious sometimes that you have to laugh it off as, you know, what Kinney would say is it's so over the top because you're supposed to not like him.
So we're going to get into this PE class, and we got Coach Malone coming out and dividing up the kids for a game of Gladiator, I think it is.
Yeah, it seems like it's capture the flag, but you have to tackle the other team. I guess, again, in Kinney's world, he's saying, hey, of days gone by, how we used to think when we were kids. So he's writing it as, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s, where the gym teacher looks at all the kids and he ends up splitting them up by the fat and scrawny nerds over here. And then clearly all the athletes on the other side looks at the athletes, says, you guys are shirts, looks at the rejects and says, you all are skins, take your shirts off. The other kids understand what's going on. For as smart as Greg is, he's like, why are we this? And the rest of the kids understand it. Our friend Gupta is like, he's trying to embarrass us.
Chirag Gupta points that out. He says, yeah, the coach is trying to mess with kids like us, make us feel bad about ourselves. During this chaotic game of Gladiator, Rowley and Greg do escape to under the bleachers, and we do get Chloe Grace Moretz as a character. I think a new character for the movie. I don't think this was a book character. Nick, I thought this was funny that this movie came out in March of 2010, and then a month later, Chloe Grace Moretz is going to show up in Kick-Ass in April of 2010. Two completely different movies, two completely different characters. But she plays Angie here. She's kind of the alternative, go against the grain girl, not obsessed with popularity. Supposed to be some sort of anchor for Greg and Rowley to gravitate towards, of not being obsessed with what Greg is so obsessed with. But honestly, she doesn't play too much of a big role in this movie, but I thought that was cool that she popped up.
And here, another shit on Greg moment. You met this new person. You don't have a lot of friends. She's saying, hey, hang out with me under the bleachers here. It's fine. I don't want to be popular. And then Greg calls her a freak. Like, oh, we can't be seen with that freak because she doesn't want to be popular. And that's all we have to do. And Riley's like, okay, I guess we won't hang out with her. So Greg has full control over Rowley, and it's pissing me off.
Free Rowley.
Well, James, we're going to get our friend Chirag Gupta back. And just heads up, Chirag Gupta is very stereotypically Indian. You can tell by the name, but very thick accent.
Very Apu, The Simpsons accent, yes.
Very much so. It's 2010.
This is how Chirag Gupta speaks in the movie.
Stop! Good God, man! You almost got the cheese touch.
And this is how actor Karan Brar speaks in real life.
I actually learned over experience through the help of a good old friend named Tony O'Dell. He works on the show Shake It Up right now, but he's helped me master the Indian accent and helped me with this. He's actually Italian, so that was really crazy. And he taught me the Indian accent instead of like any of my relatives or anything.
Seemed a little over the top. Well, James, he's going to explain to us the legend at the school of the cheese touch. James, could you explain the cheese touch to the audience?
Sure. This is from the book. Jeff Kinney said that there's very little backstory to this. He did say there was an actual piece of cheese in my church parking lot underneath the basketball hoop.
Is that cheese?
But apparently it is legendary in this movie, and it has been there for God knows how long, and whoever touches it essentially has a form of cooties. This imaginary germ that you're gross if you touch it, and don't touch me if you have the cheese touch. Some kid touches it, and then he gets so fed up one day that he passes it off to someone else. And basically it's just a game of tag to get rid of this cheese touch. There's going to be this poor German exchange student who's going to get it, and he has no idea what's going on. He's like, "What is cheese touch?"
I laughed at this.
And then he's going to get, it's hilarious because Gupta's like, yeah, he fortunately got put on a plane and took her back to Dusseldorf with him. And we get a very cartoonish shot of him in the back of a station wagon, looking at nobody, looking at the rearview window, just going, no! It's like, this is kind of my comedy, not gonna lie.
I don't know why he was screaming. I don't know what he was getting dragged away from. I don't know.
Yeah. Did he get deported because the cheese touch? No. His parents were probably like, come on.
Anyway, in his quest to be the most popular kid, our boy Greg, he's going to have to do a little recon. So he has to go up into his brother Rodrick's room, and he's going to go look at his yearbook. But he's not supposed to be up in his brother's room, which is the attic of the house. This brother's a problem, by the way. Rodrick's a problem. He is in a band called Diper Load.
Oh, no, it's Loded Diper.
Oh, Loded Diper. Sorry. Spelled D-I-P-E-R. They're looking for that. He gets found by Rodrick, and Rodrick says, I'm going to kill you.
I'm going to kill you.
He makes this threat a few times in this movie. I'm literally going to kill you. Like, it's not, I'm going to kill you. He goes, this time, I will literally kill you. I was like, oh, hey, Rodrick. Using literal a little too much there.
That is criminal.
Literally kill you.
But Nick, it was actually this moment. This is when I had the solidified NPC locked up. Rodrick says to Rowley, get out of my room. Like, what are you looking at? Beat it. And Rowley says, yeah, okay.
But I just want to say one thing. Run, Greg, run!
And he grabs Rodrick's ankle and he says, run, Greg, run. Rowley lays down his body for his boy, for him to survive. the threat of death. And I said, Rowley is MVC. Solidified.
He's an A1.
Bona fide.
He's an A1.
You're gonna have to come out sometime, loser. I'll wait here as long as it takes.
Locks Greg in his room, says, I'm not even gonna let you out to use the bathroom. Greg really has to use the bathroom. He puts on like catcher's gear to leave his room, and he runs to the bathroom. The littlest brother is in there peeing, so he takes his brother off of the toilet. Greg starts actively peeing. Rodrick opens the shower curtain like it's a horror movie, goes, I'm gonna kill you. Greg turns, starts pissing on him. I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is a kid's movie? There's just like piss flying around everywhere. Mom comes in,
crazy.
she's like, what is going on? He's like, Rodrick's trying to kill me. And she's like, so you're going to pee on him? This was a fun, chaotic scene.
Yeah, this was the pinnacle of the gross out humor because earlier, Fragley has like a mole or a nipple with a single hair on it.
Want to see my secret freckle? Whoa! It's got a hair in it.
And then as soon as Greg starts pissing on Rodrick, I thought, oh my God, this movie's completely out of pocket. Loaded Diper, more like piss on my face.
Like, I got pissed on.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
Wish Greg had a diaper on for that moment. Then you wouldn't have gotten pissed on so hard.
Oh.
Greg's going to keep trying to look cool at school. This is his running thing throughout the movie. He sees stuff for wrestling. And he says, I'm going to sign up for wrestling. I know everything there needs to know about wrestling. And I know all the moves, obviously WWE moves. He shows up, and I'm thinking of the South Park skit. That's not wrestling. He has to try out, and he ends up getting beat by a girl who is his arch nemesis.
Make your move! She's a girl. Where do I grab her?
Reminded me of Helga from Hey Arnold.
Very much so.
A little bit of Angelica from Rugrats.
We are going to have a self-esteem video that plays like in a class, right? You're a middle schooler. Here's how you fit in. And it's this very funny, like HR style video that you'd see about, oh, I want to be cool. And it's about peer pressure. And there's this overweight guy sitting at this desk. And he's like, you know what's cool? Breakdancing.
Hey guys, do you like breakdancing?
And then he gets down to breakdance. And it's a very clear, like, body double who's doing all this breakdancing. And everybody's going, whoa.
Totally rad.
And I thought that was really funny.
There's a lot of genuinely funny moments in this film. A lot of actually good jokes. And that bit is funny because there's so much lore behind it because they say, whoa, Brad Brannigan or something.
Brock Brannigan, PI? What are you doing here?
You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that Brannigan is sort of like a Tom Selleck in this universe. This HR video, PSA video is made in the 80s, quote unquote, for the movie. And it features a 70s former hot actor who is the spokesperson for it.
I'm here to solve the case of the boy who just needed to be himself.
A nice little detail about that is Greg is sitting there bored, kind of rolling his eyes. Rowley is invested in this video, and Fragley is wiping away tears from this video. That's how you kind of get a clue. Those two are being true to themselves, and Greg is being a little bit superficial. Other jokes that I enjoyed when they're talking about this popular boy.
Your girls say that Bryce Anderson has a cute butt. A butt can't be cute. It's a butt. This
is after Greg gives Rowley a makeover and makes him spray paint his kind of girlish looking bike that has an in-universe music artist named Joshy. He has a Joshy sticker on his bike, and he makes him spray paint over that black. And then so Rowley rolls up, and then this is when he says, oh, you almost look as cool as I do. And then they say, hey to Bryce.
There's Bryce. Just be cool. Hey, Bryce. Yeah, hey, Bryce. Cute butt.
Cute butt. It's a lot of good jokes. Even Greg, for being a jerk, and his zingers are kind of funny if you're in the right mood. But there's also just like these unsaid things, like when in the third act, when Greg is trying to be friends with Fragley and have a sleepover, Fragley's just like stabbing a downed kite with a stick. What was that?
I think he's meant to look unstable. And he's like
a little.
Yeah, he's like, Greg Heffley's in my house. Greg's here. And you're like,
yeah, and then he chases Greg around the house. He's like, Greg.
With a booger.
Greg, I hear you breathing. Greg. Yeah, Fragley is he's got some screws loose.
Just a couple. Well, James, we're going to transition next to Halloween. Very exciting for 12-year-olds to go get candy. They have a plan to get the candy. You got to get to the nice houses at the end of the night. They'll give you handfuls, or better, they say, they'll just leave the bowls out and you can take everything you want. And so we're a pirate and a knight. Rowley's the knight, and his mom made him wear reflective and flashing stuff all over him. Greg's rolling his eyes because that's not cool to be wearing reflectors, and Rowley's thinking, so what my mama said, we're going to get messed with by these kids in a truck. So obviously they're old enough to be driving. This is Pete Hosey and his goons. Greg yells, I got your license plate. I'm calling the police. So for being cool,
Karen.
he's a bit of a Karen, exactly.
What a Karen.
And then Pete.
That was probably like the most wimpiest move he did, which was like, instead of taking it on the chin or just like following up with that later and telling his parents, he busts out we got your plates, we're calling the cops. And then that just activates Pete Hosey to hit the brakes.
Takes it so personally.
Throw it in reverse. Pete Hosey is, I believe, the bully from the actual book. So I feel like they felt obligated to include him in this movie. He does seem like a kind of late addition antagonist to Greg, but here he is. So Greg and Rowley are going to run to Greg's grandma's house, get the key underneath the mat, jump in. They're safe. Rowley gives the game away that nobody's actually home. So Pete Hosey and the boys are just going to wait him out. But then we get this, again, this is a movie that will probably be up for best soundtrack by the end of the year, because even though this movie only has a budget of $15 million, which is not a lot of money did go to the music, because they do have a lot of needle drops. We got some Beastie Boys in here. We got Total Eclipse of the Heart. We got a Smash Mouth song in here. And then there's another needle drop when they open the garage. Rowley has a leaf blower. Greg has a weed whacker. And it's supposed to be intimidating, like it's a chainsaw and whatnot. And Greg loses grip of the weed whacker and just scratches Pete's truck. Which again, is just like, this movie is very slapsticky with its comedy. Sometimes it hits and sometimes it doesn't. This one hit for me. Because
you're thinking, they actually are getting out of the situation. And then, of course, Greg, thinking he's cool, does an uncool thing, loses control of a weed whacker. And I'll be honest, when he walked out with that, I thought, yeah, dude, getting hit with a weed whacker would suck. Like if I'm Pete, I'd be like, dude, get that away from me. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but he loses it, hits the side of the truck, takes all the paint off. Just like he took a sandblaster to the side of the truck and just
right above the wheel well
brought it back to metal, like metal on metal. And obviously that pisses the guys off. We're going to have to run. We do get away, but this is not the last we will see of Pete Hosey. Well, in the wake of this, we hear about a new opportunity at the school, and this is the safety patrol. And again, Greg's like, to be popular, you know what we should do? Be on safety patrol. Like, what are these bright ideas, kid?
I don't know, but we got a Spider-Man line that gets dropped by Bertrand Winsky, who is the supervisor of this division, the safety patrol. He gives us the good old, with great power comes great responsibility. This character is played by Rob LaBelle, or as we might know him as Stone from the 1997 straight-to-video horror B movie, Jack Frost. Nick?
What? We have a friend of the show?
Did you do your friend of the show research? Don't worry, I did. Remember, in the 1997 Jack Frost, not the 1998 Michael Keaton Jack Frost, he was one of the science guys in the Shady Company, and he gets puppeteered by Jack at the end.
Yes.
In the third act, Jack Frost melts into water and goes inside of Stone and kind of like walks him out to the street, and then Stone like pukes out Jack Frost and he dies in the process. That is Bertrand Winsky from Diary of a Wimpy Bitch.
I didn't get that far down the IMDb call sheet. And
you had to. This was our only friend of the show, I believe. I went very deep, even like Pete Hosey's goons. Usually if they have a profile picture, I'll try to look at their stuff, but we really didn't have anything until I saw Rob LaBelle, and one of his top credits was he is someone Wallace in Watchmen. And I was like, I definitely remember saying that. So then I kept scrolling, found Jack Frost at 1997. I was like, that's it. Welcome back, Rob LaBelle.
I did look at his IMDb because I did see the Watchmen credit, and I thought, got nothing.
Jack Frost.
Sad I missed it. James, we have another gag I would like to bring up because it really did make me laugh. It's about them, where they're going to hang out. And Rowley says, we should go to your house. I don't think my dad likes you. Ever since he deciphered our secret language, it is them sitting at the kitchen table speaking pig Latin.
He's like, your paw smells like a woman paw or something like that.
Exactly. The dad's just standing at the sink with a robe and just turns around in disgust. Just like,
my wife laughed at that joke too. So very solid. Also, I think it's funny that when I put on movies like Alien or Thief or some critically acclaimed movie, Emily's usually like, I'm not going to watch this one. She watched this entire movie. She watched all of Diary of a Wimpy Kid and laughed at that joke.
Legitimate lull from me on that one.
Well, speaking of secret language, another example about how Greg is so arrogant and egotistical is because they pick that up from the cool guy Bryce, the kid with the cute butt, because they start saying stuff like that in a secret language in class. And then Greg leans over to Rowley and says, are they talking about me? It's like, bitch, it's not, everything's about you. And Rowley hits us with a great joke and says, I don't know, I don't speak Russian. Love this kid. Fucking love this kid, man.
God, I love Rowley. Well, James, we're going to get over to our aforementioned big wheel accident with the ball.
Yes.
Because honestly, it feels like a game we would have played. We would not because we don't like each other, but this does feel like a game we would have played and an outcome that may have happened in our lives.
Absolutely. Again, watching this movie, you're like, what the hell's up with this football versus big wheel thing that they do? They do it twice at least. One is in the fall as school is starting. This time it's going to be in the winter when there's snow and it's dangerous conditions. But yeah, basically it's just, hey, one of us gets on the big wheel, rolls down a hill, and the other one throws the ball at the other one to see if we can knock them off. Pretty simple, pretty reckless, pretty childish, pretty accurate.
Feels like a kid's game. Like me and my brothers would have done this.
You guys would absolutely do this. And again, Greg always makes an excuse to not be the person getting the ball pelted at him because he takes advantage of how innocent and quote unquote dumb Rowley is. So Rowley, again, just hangs his head and says, okay, I'll do it. So then he is rolling down the hill. We got some horrific green screening in this one, by the way, because I don't think it was actually snowing. That's a lot of fake snow.
This is bad.
And it's very apparent that we're on a green screen in the background. But Rowley is on the big wheel, and then Greg hucks the football. Football gets stuck in the big wheel against the frame, launches Rowley off the big wheel. He goes flying in the air, crashes into a pile of snow, and we cut to Rowley and Greg in class. Greg, again, no sympathy, says, are you sure the doctor's right? It didn't look broken to me. And Rowley raises his arm with a cast on and says, yeah, it's broken. The x-rays never lie. Rowley is getting a lot of positive attention from his classmates for this broken arm. And Greg basically thinks he did him a favor. So then Greg even says, oh, I forgave him for milking the broken hand. He also is jealous of Rowley just having girls sign his cast. He's sitting at actual lunch tables because a running bit was that they always sit on the floor with Fregley. So he says, Rowley was eating at an actual table because of something I did. Where's my credit? And I thought, God, can Greg be more unlikable in this goddamn movie? He is such a piece of shit.
He's so mad about it. He even tries to steal the spotlight. He shows up with bandages.
He fakes an infection injury.
It's an infection from a splinter that they didn't take out. I'm also sitting there thinking, you don't know how to be. That's the most uncool thing ever. You have no idea about how to be popular.
I think that's part of the joke. I think that's part of the comedy is that it makes him sound like he is gross. Like it's an untreated splinter infection. But he has a sympathy sheet that he wants people to sign, which is funny. Greg is still pissed at Rowley for because he injured him, and he's getting a lot of attention from his classmates. Our boy Gupta comes up and says, hey, do you want to sign the card? And then Greg, again, his narcissistic mindset says, you got Rowley a card? Because he's obsessed with this subject right now. And Gupta, a nice little kid who is normal and how he should be, says, what? No, it's for this other guy. It is the cartoonist for the school newspaper.
He has mono.
Greg does say, oh, that does suck, but then immediately snaps into a Slim Jim and says, well, does that mean that the cartoonist position is open? And then so we get this whole contest for who can make up the best cartoon for the school newspaper. Greg and Rowley are going to be at the kitchen table at Greg's house, and Rowley has this Zooey Mama punchline that is from the books. I didn't know what it was from in the movie. It's just kind of like, what the hell is this? It's a nonsensical punchline that they use in the books. So Greg has this quote unquote highbrow comic that he thinks is funny, and Rowley has this quote unquote lowbrow comic punchline that he thinks is funny. Ultimately, the Zooey Mama prevails, and Rowley is the coolest kid in school. He is so cool.
Never been cooler. Greg, never been worse.
He falls below Fregley. There's like, it goes from out of 200 and he goes 201. He was so bad they added a blank space for that kid. But speaking of the lowest of the low, this whole safety patrol thing, this thing that's going on in the background, one day Greg is walking home the kindergartners in this snowstorm almost, borrows Rowley's jacket and sees Pete Hosey's truck rolling up and says, "Oh shit. Hey kids, hide in this ditch. Otherwise you're going to get eaten by aliens." And then so he shoves all the kids in the hole, and then the truck drives by. It's not Pete Hosey. It's just some rando. And then some parent comes out and says, "Rowley, is that you?" Greg drops the last kid in the ditch, runs away like a coward, leaves all these kids in the ditch, and Rowley is going to go ahead and get the blame for that. And then so he gets kicked off the safety patrol team, and Greg goes to his mom and says, "Oh, I need to tell the truth. Someone's going to get hurt, but if I don't tell the truth, someone else is going to get hurt." So then mom says, "Hey, do what you think is right." And Greg says, "I had to do the right thing like my mom said. So I decided to let Rowley take the blame for this one." So again, it's just that insanity mindset from Greg that is just off-putting to the audiences. But what he differs in the book and the movie is that right after he says that, movie version Greg says, "But I have a feeling that that wasn't the right decision." So this is like our first inclination that Greg is going through change, but it is way too late in the movie because we're being so accurate towards the book. So there's a rift in the friendship. Rowley and Greg are broken up. This is where I got that meme scene of Rowley saying, "Don't come by my house. Don't talk to me. We're done.
Don't call me. Don't come by my house. We're done."
Bro was acting.
He laid it all out on the line. And Greg, even in this moment, is saying, "Well, we both learned a lesson. I learned not to do that, and you learned not to let people borrow your jacket."
Yeah.
So he still can't even take all the blame.
No.
He's still a jerk, and he doesn't present it like, he never says, "I'm sorry." He says, "Oh, this is a funny story. Isn't that funny?" And that's when Riley looks at him and goes, "You're not a good friend." And it got real there.
You know what, Greg? You're not a good friend.
Bro was acting.
Give him the Oscar.
They have a split. We have a couple small arcs that happen here. The friendship with Fregley we mentioned earlier. He has a sleepover, gets chased with a booger. Even this was really psychotic because he clearly just chose somebody who he could still have dominion over as his next friend. He needed to find another useful idiot instead of finding someone who's maybe on his level or reaching out.
Self-respect.
Yeah. He joins the school play because he thought, "Oh, this is how I'll become popular. This is where I see this on Instagram all the time, where it's the Total Eclipse of the Heart song where all the kids are trying out. They all suck. And then Greg shows up with this beautiful voice. "And I need you now tonight."
Voice of an angel.
And they say, "Oh, that's a great soprano voice you have. You can play Dorothy." And then he goes, "I'm not playing Dorothy, whatever." And they go, "Oh, you could be a tree." And then this leads to a whole debacle where he tries to take the spotlight at the play. It all goes wrong. He attacks Dorothy in a way. And he just...
Who is Patty, who beat him up in wrestling class, by the way.
Yep. So he has a vendetta. And it's this whole thing. His family's there. His brother's there. Everybody sees it. He has a whole bit with his brother who has a magazine it's like a motorcycle mama's magazine. It's just hot chicks in bikinis on motorcycles. He basically exposes his brother and thinks that that'll make him feel better. He goes, "It's been a terrible year. I have to take it out on somebody." So this kid's the worst,
Abusive.
Man.
Yeah.
He's the worst.
Just continuing the chain of abuse. But don't worry, Nick. we're going to get into our finale here. And remember when I said, hey, Greg hasn't turned a corner all movie? Well, guess what? An hour and 19 minutes and 23 seconds in, Greg still hasn't turned a corner because Rowley says, hey, my new friend that is actually nice to me is having a sleepover, so I need my video game back. I left it at your house. And Greg hits him with the finders keepers line. And then Rowley's like, well, no, I didn't like lose it. I just left it. And then Greg says, fine, leavers losers then. Rowley says, that's not even a real thing.
He's actively stealing.
And then Greg says, it is if I say it is. And this is why I was like, Greg is the worst. He's trying to rival Biff Tannen for the most unhinged villain in cinema history. Because
he might be pretty high on the list, all things said and done. And it's only March.
After this, I was like, he is the biggest bitch known to man. Like, why? Now you understand my 3 words. More like shitty kid, because he's acting shitty. They get into a quote unquote fight. Patty, again, great joke, says, kick his butt, Rowley, it's easy. And then so they go into this whole fight. Pete Hosey drives his truck on the football field, middle of a school day. Are these high schoolers supposed to be in school? Who knows? They're making their use of their time by terrorizing children at a middle school.
It's a crime.
It's a literal crime. So they pull up, all the kids scatter. It's just Greg, Rowley, Pete Hosey, and the goons. And then so they're like, I'm going to beat you up. And then they notice the cheese. Now the cheese has been on the ground. It has been a theme throughout the movie, through the changing seasons. We get a lot of bad visual effects with this poor CGI roach that comes up to it at one point. We also get some bad CGI falling leaves and CGI snow that goes around this cheese. I meant to say there's this scene with this sort of groundskeeper type character who is brooming the blacktop. They don't have a leaf blower at the school, but he has just got this old timey broom, and we get the gag that he avoids the cheese. It's just a known thing. What comedy. But Pete Hosey is like, I don't know if he's aware of the cheese touch. I don't know if this was canon when he was in school, because the coach calls him out and says, is that you, Pete Hosey? But he might know about the cheese touch. But anyway, it's a gross piece of moldy cheese on the ground, and says, give me the wide one, talking about Rowley, and makes Rowley start munching on the cheese. The coach comes out, breaks it up, and then the cheese is on the ground. It's got bite marks in it. Pete Hosey scatters. He does not pay for his crimes. And Rowley's standing there with the cheese. It's got bite marks in it. All the kids come back out from hiding. And then Patty and the gang are like, oh, Rowley ate the cheese. And then Greg finally does a good guy move, steps in and says, no, it was I. So this is finally his redemption
Spartacus moment. I ate the cheese. And you're like, okay, well, first of all, he's the reason Pete is even after these guys.
Because he was being a Karen.
Rowley did nothing to it.
And weed whacked his truck.
Yeah. And now, Greg, you're like, oh, you took the fall for your friend, except it's still with selfish intentions, because he tries to give this speech to everybody and say, but I did you all a favor. I showed you the cheese isn't scary. It's just a legend. Like, none of this matters. You're welcome, everybody. And luckily, everyone just rejects him and says, no, that's gross. You ate the cheese. You are a social outcast now.
But he does redeem his friend on this one move that was finally not selfish, kind of. And Rowley and Greg walk away as friends. We get a little tie of the bow at the end where they do make the yearbook, because Greg was very obsessed with making the yearbook and being important, and that is your value, apparently. And him and Rowley get cutest friends in the yearbook, which is a callback to a line that Rowley said when they were illegally in Rodrick's room looking at that yearbook. Rowley, very under the radar line, he says, maybe we'll be cutest friends. And they ultimately did end up being cutest friends.
I forgot about that scene, because Greg goes, I'm a lock for like 7 of these awards.
Yeah, he's like, I'm class clown. And Rowley's like, don't you have to be funny to be that?
Rowley had some burns. Like
Rowley-
like you said,
Rowley had some
I think he
zingers,
still
too.
was Patrick's star because Patrick always had a few singers.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's the movie.
And Nick, that is Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And we hit credits. And as always, when we hit the credits, we got to go over the funniest names in the credits. I only have one for this round. It's going to be Doug Pruss.
Hey, give me that Pruss.
That wraps up this childhood movie that was not part of our childhood. But we're not done because we got to hand out some awards. We're going to get into the mini pops. It is the mini poppies, the mini cornies, the goods, the bads. It's all going to come down to the wrap party in the finale of this year, of this season. And Nick, I'm reviewing this movie first, so I need to see your mini pop nominees first. When you are ready, go ahead and show me.
All right, James, mini pops coming your way. Read them and weep, my friend.
Nick, for Diary of a Wimpy Kid, best weapon, you went with Weed Whacker. Best fighter, you're going with Pete Hosey. MBC is Rowley. Biggest piece of shit is Greg. Best death, I wish it was Greg. And do you have a yeet? I can't see. Best yeet, the big wheel. Alrighty, I love all those.
Thank you, sir. I feel like they were a little obvious, but I say that now. I need to see your awards to tell if it was obvious or not. So, James, when you are ready, my friend, let me see yours.
Here are my usual suspects.
James, for best weapon, you have also put Weed Whacker. Best fighter, you said Greg and Rowley. For MVC, Rowley. For biggest piece of shit, you also said Greg. Yeet, you said football to big wheel.
Are you changing his name to Rowley?
Rowley.
Roly-poly-oly is in this. Yes, Nick, we have the same weapon of Weed Whacker. I really, really want to go with Mythic Cheese. It was going to be my early pick in the movie, but then it just didn't live up to the hype of a best weapon. So I thought Weed Whacker is pretty unique to the movie, pretty good. MVC, easily Rowley or Rowley, as you're saying. Biggest piece of shit is Greg. That is a lock. Honestly, I'm calling it now. I think he's going to be the 1 seed in the dipshit division. Calling it right now. He is a lock.
Yeah.
Best yeet. We're on for the big wheel. It was clear that was the best yeet. Now, I think the only place we differ is the best fighter. So, Nick, explain Pete Hosey to me.
Pete Hosey as best fighter is quite honestly is because he's just bigger. He is able to force the boys at the very end to eat the cheese. At least Rowley forces him to eat the cheese. Is an intimidating figure, chases them down. So it felt natural. We don't really get a true fight in this. I almost thought about Coach in a way because of his quick takedowns that he has in the wrestling class. But for a lack of a fighter, I went with the more intimidating force in the movie.
There was a lot of people that were thrown down in this movie. Fregley was a hell of an underweight fighter because he was in the Greg division of the Chihuahuas, as Coach Malone put it. And Fregley straight up clowned on Greg. And so did Patty. Patty beat up Greg twice.
Yeah.
And that tells me that Greg is just an easy target. But what I'm going for here, Nick, is I'm meta picking for the rap party for the Cinedome because I think it would be funny to see Greg go in the fighters tournament. And his boy Rowley is not going to leave him behind because he's that dedicated of a friend. So I am picking a Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man type choice here with a duo of throwing Greg and Rowley, apparently best friends for life, in the Cinedome together.
I feel like you just want to see an AI image of them getting absolutely shit on.
No,
Is that
quite the opposite. I want to see them. I want to see them to the finals. I want to see them get OP weapons. No, I know, Nick. This is one of those choices where yes, other people are beating up the main character, but I just didn't want a street racer Danny's dad situation. What happened to him? He got rolled off a cliff by Doc Brown. Nobody remembers him. So I'm looking for a Greg and Rowley tag team jumping in and just taking over this tournament. That's my decision, but you can make the final call.
As far as I'm concerned, everyone in here is a first round exit. So Rowley and Greg work for me.
Yes! Greg and Rowley, let's go, baby. Let's go. They're in it. Okay, and boom goes the big wheel, Nick. That is our awards. Thank you for indulging in the Greg and Rowley tag team for the Fighters tournament. Can't wait for that. I hope AI is ready to accurately get those likenesses down when we get there. But Nick, we got to wrap up business here. We're going to get into our final review. We get there via our sarcastic selling points, and I'm going to go first. My sarcastic selling point is Diary of a Shitty Kid.
I love it, James. I said it's a Disney Channel original movie where the kid's still shitty at the end.
Final review. Fight.
All right, Nick, final review time. We're going to get into what the other guys think of this movie and then what we think of this movie. But first, we're going to start out with Rotten Tomatoes and the critics. 54% of the critics like this movie.
And James, for the people of Rotten Tomatoes, they say an even 50%.
Just half. Let's see if Metacritic can beat that, and they usually don't, but they are on both accounts because the critics at Metacritic are giving this a 56, a 5.6 on the popcorn scale.
And James, this might be a first where the Metacritic people are the highest ranking out of all of our scores, James. They come in at a 6.4.
Wow, Nick, that is a rare sight to see. The Metacritic fans coming in clutch. And now for our Zooey Mama. Big wheel drama. Frankly, don't seem right because he's beating up that kite. Greg's ego been gone and Gupta's getting picked on while Rowley's getting dissed on and Rodrick got pissed on. Score brought to you by the Cheese Touch from IMDb, a 6.3.
Whoa.
I think we're snacking on that cheese. We are weed whacking on that hose, as in Hosey. And now it's time to hit the audience with the funniest Rotten Tomatoes review. I can't wait for this, Nick. What did you find?
I mean, it's fine. It's Madam D gave this 2 out of 5 stars and said, kids probably enjoy this film. I didn't.
All right, way to be honest. Just like Greg. Nick, now it's time to get into what we think about this movie. I am reviewing this first, so I'm going to hit you with my laughable logline, my popcorn points, and my final thoughts.
Let's hear it.
A narcissistic boy manipulates his only friend he doesn't even deserve in order to climb the popularity ranks of his middle school. Nick, I pre-popped this at a 5.1, but I think I'm going to go up. I'm going to go up to a 5.9, which is going to match my Brother the Pig score because I just thought this movie was very watchable. It did have a lot of decent jokes. It does fall into the 5s because I can't call it a good movie. It's oddly refreshing, I'll say. Not a complete movie, like my alternative 3 words, not for everyone. But I still enjoyed it, even though it wasn't a typical Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 movie. I still think it's very watchable, and honestly, I might check out the sequels because I need more Rowley in my life. That's all I'm giving this movie. What do you got?
James, my laughable logline is, a kid with an out-of-control ego treats everyone poorly but thinks he is the good guy. And I pre-popped this at a 4.5, and I'm also going to come up. I'm going to come up into the 5s, into the low 5s. I'm meeting you at your popcorn point at a pre-pop points at a 5.1. Like you said, it was this was fine. I mean, it is what it is, right? At the end of the day, we always talk about there's a ceiling on kids' movies. There's only so much depth you can give it. Something we didn't talk about before, but I do think matters for this. I don't know anybody really in this cast for the kids. I mean, minus some guys who've shown up later on in their careers, but it's cast really well, and the kids do a really good job acting. You usually worry about with kids being really cringy and not getting the lines right and not delivering. All the kids in this movie did a really good job. I was thoroughly impressed. I like I said, usually with kid actors, there's a few things that just really take you out of it, and it's a little mechanical and robotic because they're kids. But they did a fantastic job through and through, and the direction and everyone on set who was setting them up for success did a great job. So kudos there. Legitimately funny, not haha, that's cute funny. Some legitimately funny stuff was going on in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I do wish what we learned about Kinney's vision for it shone through a little more in the movie, because I think it is a movie. I think they tried to do a hybrid of the really shitty kid, but also give him an arc. And as we always say, don't half-ass two things, full-ass one thing. So I wish it was a little more like, really, he's a really bad person, and that's the joke, and everybody gets it. So it is what it is. It's Hollywood, right? You can't, I'm sure the studios said, this is a kid's movie. We can't quite do that. So, all things considered, again, 5.1, very watchable. I think it's probably very fun for kids, still fun for the adults. I appreciate something that said, hey, we're for the kids, we're for the adults. It can still be completely funny. At the end of the day, though, it still did not like Greg's character, and it was intentional, but I also didn't quite like the way he went through the movie. So what you going to do? 5.1, kids movie, completely fine and watchable. And I'm with you on possibly watching the sequels. I'm interested. It at least has me hooked.
I'm curious.
Rewatchability high when I have kids and they're old enough, and it's on Disney Plus. It'll probably be, when Disney Plus costs $50 a month by then. I'll still say, hey, let's flip on Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Unconventional movie. Still thought it was funny. It's basically One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest for children. I'll just leave it at that. And Nick, I just want to... Hey, just like that movie, the main character was the biggest piece of shit. The similarities continue.
Yeah, he didn't really get any better.
Based on a book, point of views change. There's so much continuity here. And that's what we do here at the Just Play It podcast. We watch movies, we throw them on, we just play it. And we want to thank you for listening to us. Thank you for watching us. Don't forget to follow us. We are at Just Play It Podcast on Instagram and YouTube. We are at Just Play It Pod on X. Join us next time. We're going to be watching a movie that has to do with multiple extraterrestrials.
We watched this movie before, but now it's plural.
It is plural time for the second time of 2026. Thank you guys so much again. We are heading gone. And remember, Zooey Mama. Loaded diaper? More like piss on my face.
Yeah, dude, getting hit with a weed whacker would suck.
Because I really want to end it with, and Rodrick got pissed on, or something like that.
I like it.